Now, as you can see by my long-term dividend paying portfolio, I'm by no means an ultra high yield income focused investor that focuses only on buying into dividend paying stocks and ETFs that offer a massive yield from day one. Now, this is pretty apparent because you see things like my 2,700 shares of Realty Income stock, which yield around 4 or 5%, or my 1,000 shares of Apple stock, which offer a yield on cost of around 1%. But over time, as more and more of these awesome, super interesting alternative investments that have been coming out like crazy as of recent are starting to spark some interest for me personally, and I've been adding some of these to my portfolio as of recently. But in this video, we're going to go through, I'm going to share with you an ultra high yielding ETF that you probably haven't heard about as of yet, that yields around 25% and has offered a positive total return with zero NAV decay. This ETF has a super interesting strategy, and I promise you're going to want to see what this ETF has to offer. So if you want to go through the 25% plus yielding, zero NAV decay ETF with me, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the market. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. So the ETF that I'm talking about, the ETF that we're going through in this video, is ticker symbol ZIVB, or the -1x short VIX midterm futures strategy ETF, which currently has a distribution rate of around 25-26% and a 30-day SEC yield of around 1.44%. Now, this ETF came across my radar just as of recently, and I looked into some of the performance and what this ETF really does, how it works, and I'm honestly sort of hooked. As long as the market trades sideways and or up a little bit, this ETF is set to do amazing. But to dig a little bit deeper into how this ETF works and to get us all up to speed, it says right here, the fund and index description, now with monthly distributions, it says the -1x short VIX midterm future strategy ETF, ticker symbol ZIVB, aims to provide daily investment results that correspond to the daily performance of the S&P 500 VIX midterm futures inverse daily index before fees and expenses. It may be used to express a medium-term view on declining implied equity volatility. And to make this very easy for you guys to understand exactly how ZIVB works, it's very similar to that of SVOL or SVOL, the Simplified Volatility Premium ETF, but instead of only having exposure to around 0.2x to 0.3x inverse, ZIVB offers entire exposure to basically the inverse of the VIX. Now, some more facts about ZIVB is this ETF has been trading since April 19th of 2023, so there isn't all that much data to go off of, but there's enough data to see if or if not this ETF has performed either good or bad, at least historically. The expense ratio is 1.35%, so it's up there as far as expense ratio goes, although with these more actively managed income-focused style ETFs like QDTE, SVOL, like the others, these are going to have pretty expensive expense ratios. Now, before I go through and share with you exactly the performance of this ETF as far as price performance, looking at some of the distributions historically, this ETF has been paying around 48.5 cents every single month for a while now. And spoiler alert, keep in mind, this ETF does not cost all that much, which I'm sure you sort of got the picture because a 25% distribution rate is massive. So at this point, you might be saying to yourself, okay, another short VIX ETF strategy that pays massive distributions every single month, around 25% distribution rate as of right now, and has been doing so consistently, but what about NAV decay? Has this ETF lost value since inception? This is the craziest part of my opinion. Since around April 2023, since this ETF started trading, ZIVB is up 31.92%. And what's even crazier is that just a few months back, this ETF was up even more than that. This ETF that pays a 25% distribution that shorts the VIX, so basically as long as the volatility throughout the market stays calm, doesn't spike up like we saw just a few weeks back, as long as the VIX continues to decay and as long as the market stays calm, ticker symbols like ZIVB will do just fine. Now, just to back up for a second, ZIVB is down around 12% more or less year to date, so it has not been having a great year as far as price return goes year to date. Now, keep in mind, if you use the distributions and if you look at total return, this is going to be a different story, but just 1 second here, over the 1 year time frame, holders that have held on to ZIVB are basically more or less flat, down around 2.5%. But again, with a 25% distribution rate, they've net gained around 22-23%, which is massive. Now, like I said a minute ago, on the max time frame, which is really what matters, investors that bought into this one just over a year ago are actually up around 32%, and this is not even including dividends. Not even including those juicy 48-cent dividends that have been paid now consistently ever since around January of 2024. Since then, this ETF has been paying around 48.5 cents in distributions every single month on time, which is massive. But like I said a second ago, these short VIX ETFs like SFOL, like ZIVB, these ETFs are going to do well when the VIX trades down primarily because, of course, it's shorting the VIX. It's basically hoping that the volatility index will continue to decay like we've seen at least historically quite often. But during times of the market like we saw just as of recently where the VIX spikes up like crazy, these ETFs do pose a massive risk because, of course, if you're shorting something that's going to be rocketing up in price, that can definitely be dangerous. But if you believe like I do and like a lot of other investors do, that generally speaking, the volatility index is probably going to remain pretty calm unless we have some sort of black swan event, I think the VIX is going to remain at bay and or trade down from here ongoingly. And at least I'm talking about generally speaking for the most part. But here's maybe the craziest thing of all when it comes to ZIVB, at least over this time frame, and keep in mind anything can happen. These sort of ETFs especially have a high degree of risk. These ETFs are not basic index funds, and these are not ETFs that have that much of a track record of time even trading. We're talking 1.3 years. But just to be fair, over the last 1.3 years, as far as ZIVB's performance goes, growth of $10,000 over time with dividends reinvested along the way, when it comes to ZIVB, an investor would have had a total return of 54.88% over the last 1.3 years, or an average annual total return of 37.28%. Now, as far as dividend investing goes, there's very few investments out there that I've seen that have really returned these sort of numbers in this certain time frame. And I sort of hate to do this, no disrespect to SPY or the S&P 500, and of course this is comparing apples to oranges, but just to be fair, over the same time frame, ZIVB has returned around 55%, where SPY has returned around 36%. Now don't get me wrong, SPY has still returned a massive amount of returns during this time frame, but still, to be fair, ZIVB has outperformed the S&P on this time frame, which at least in this scenario speaks volumes. Now, because I personally do think that the VIX, the volatility index, is going to trade sideways and down over time, because that's my opinion, I am, as of right now, investing pretty heavily into things like SFOL, and I've been starting to buy some more shares of ZIVB just as of recently. But that being said, this would still always 100,000% be an alternative small position in my overall portfolio just because of my specific risk tolerance. But for those investors out there that are seeking massive income basically from day one, we're talking around 48.5 cents, at least is what we've seen over the past few months, and also want to buy into an ETF that has zero NAV erosion, at least as of so far. And if you believe that the VIX is going to trade down / sideways over time, ZIVB might be an ETF that you want to look into. Now, lastly, but most importantly, I want to hear from you guys down below. When it comes to higher yield and income focused ETFs in the range of around 25% distribution rate, what are some of your favorite names across the market as of right now? Drop some ticker symbols in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.